We all know that sex sells. And in the modern world, it doesn't have to be real sex. We've seen through the meteoric rise of OnlyFans that there are many chaps and chapesses who are happy to part with their hard-earned money to look at photos and videos of a person or persons with their genitals on display. I don't really understand it, because if you want to look at some tart with a gash out, there's plenty of that on the internet for free already. But OnlyFans customers say they prefer the personal experience. And the way it works is that the customers who want to look at the photos and videos of the pretty ladies will pay a subscription. I don't know if it's weekly or monthly. But now there's another company where the models are straight up asking for money. MyGirlFund.com features young women who interact with their customers, provided that those customers give them tokens which can then be exchanged for cash. Such as this young lady who wants $90 for new glasses. I expect her old ones have reached the point where she just can't clean the jizz off them anymore. And now a man called Ralph Puglini has been arrested. He worked for a non-profit organisation associated with a prominent Florida university. And he'd been using his company credit card on mygirlfund.com. He'd been using it quite a lot. In fact, he spent $11.5 million. I'll say again, $11.5 million. How much vag does this bloke need to see? And more to the point, who the fuck is his supervisor? Because when the expenses come in at the end of the month, if you got a bill for, say, 800 grand from a porn site, most bosses won't sign off on that. Eventually, the police were called in to investigate the suspicious activity on the company account. And they discovered that Mr. Puglini wasn't just using the site for sexy fun times, because the model he interacted with the most on the site was also his stepson's fiancée. This feels like we're drifting into the plot of a porn film, and I use the word plot extremely loosely, interacting with his stepson's fiancée. But pornography does give unrealistic expectations. Women are never on their periods and plumbers turn up on time. Also, if we were to believe the world of porn, then apparently Asian men don't exist. So our friend Ralph wasn't giving money away to these online performers. He was embezzling it. He'd arranged with several of the women, including his stepson's fiancée, that he would purchase large amounts of tokens, which they would then cash in, and they'd split the proceedings 60-40 in his favour. So of the $11.5 million he gave to this site, he pocketed $6.9 million. And then he got nicked. And it transpires that on top of the $11.5 million he'd given to mygirlfund.com, he'd also racked up another $1.5 million in personal expenses, such as a $45,000 trip to Disneyland. Who is this guy's boss? Rather unsurprisingly, neither the organisation who Ralph worked for or the University of South Florida were overly amused to discover that masses of their funding had been stolen and embezzled through a sex cam site by a man who apparently spends every waking moment furiously tugging away. So he's been given an ultimatum. Either he pays back the $13 million he stole, which is going to be awkward because he's only got less than 7, or he's going on trial. If it goes to trial and he's found guilty, it's likely that Ralph will receive a lengthy prison sentence. But at least in prison he'd get regular sex, whether he wants it or not. As ever, thanks for watching. In South fucking shitwank, police were called in to investigate. Fuck it. Eventually, police were called in to investigate. Well, fuck it. £11.5 million. Fuck dollars. That's the reason what. Sorry, someone's shouting in the background. Didn't realise I was in a fucking double act. Guilty, then that twat on the motorbike's going to start revving up. Anyone from abroad want to know what it's like living in England? Look, grey clouds in the middle of August.